what information he's going to have. All right, Greensburg Fire Chief Nathan Stoermer, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
All right, yourself?
I'm good.
Are you going to put in for the Fair Queen?
Yeah, they're going to need different categories if that's the case.
Fair Queen Sandy. River of Fair Queen back in the day?
A Fair Queen?
Uh-huh.
No, but my sister did the contest one time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Miss Decatur County contest. That was back in the day when they had some different. It was different. It's funny how the contest has emerged throughout the years,
Right.
And the differences, what they do. And back then, I remember they had to do some different talent competitions and things like that. But yeah, so there you go. The Miss Decatur County contest. It will be coming up. I believe the last Friday in June is when that takes place, gearing up for the Decatur County Fair in July. Speaking of the fair, what will that mean for the Greensburg Fire Department? Do you divvy up the taking care of the fairgrounds with the volunteer fire departments?
Yeah, so actually we turn that over to them, and they do a fair draw, which draws out every day, and then that falls in one of the weeks of our community safety night outs. So Greensburg PD and Greensburg Fire will just kind of be doing almost a walking tour, so to speak, of the fairgrounds, just to meet and greet. Obviously, serve no food at that one, and just meet and greet and talk to people. And so the county fire departments will band together and do a fair draw, and so we'll make sure that not only the grandstands but also just the midway and everything else is covered with fire and medical coverage when necessary.
So now when the track events are going on, there has to be somebody inside the track.
Yeah,
area?
There's a dedicated response team in the track and then to the outside as well. And so that's why they divvy it up into two. So there'll be two different departments there most every night of something going on at the track. Yeah, and then anything on the outskirts or overflow, then obviously we'll be able to take care of and help out if necessary.
So then who takes care, like, with the emergency things like injuries or things like that? Is that through the hospital?
I'm not sure who does, like, the first aid portion of that. Most of the time, a lot of times they can come get the fire, and we can obviously put a Band-Aid and render first aid, things like that, if necessary. And then if needed, we can require an ambulance to come out and provide medical assistance if that's what's necessary.
So now when you talk about an ambulance coming out, I remember the one year that an ambulance needed to get through the fair parade route. So how do they make provisions for that?
Well, we have a radio, and we'll try to radio ahead. Obviously, we have lead cars, and we have chase cars and law enforcement that can stop the traffic, stop the parade route, things like that. Obviously, you can't maneuver the parade route during parade time. So detours obviously are a big thing. Again, use of the radio and really kind of just giving explicit direction into the route that we need to go, because it's difficult for anybody to get through, not only just emergency vehicles but anybody. So at that point in time, we do our best. We try to get first responders on the scene to stabilize the situation and take care of things before the ambulance arrives or when they get there and get things straightened up.
So those are things that all are taken care of in advance and all set to go with preparedness?
As much as they can. Obviously, you can't predict where the emergency is going to happen. So with that, a lot of it is done on the fly. But with our use of our radio systems and, being able to talk across town, we can pre-give them that information before they get there.
So I was trying to think in the last month, I know we had the call at Skybird Manor.
Right.
Have you been in since that happened? Have we had a chance to put the cap on that? I can't remember.
We have not. We have a emergency services after action report coming up in April to kind of discuss with all the emergency services the successes, the challenges, and kind of put the bow on it, as you would say, to that. Obviously, everything has returned back to normal and been back to normal for several weeks now, as they work through repairing and getting everything back in. And we will have we'll have one final meeting with all of the partners that took that responded. I believe we had over 18 agencies involved at one time or throughout the entire event. And so we'll be hosting a after what we call an after action report to just kind of discuss the goods, the bads, what we would do again, what we wouldn't do again, anything that needs to change for next time as we do this. It really came to be a mass evacuation, almost like a mass evacuation drill, since the fire was on the outside of the building and underground. There was reports of an explosion. At first, we weren't sure exactly what that was. We have investigated that and believe that it is come from smoke. So there was an explosion on the second floor that blew out a section of a wall in the community room. And what we hypothesize happened is that because of the smoke and fire being right against the outside of the building, that anytime you put pressurized anything, gas, smoke, whatever, in a confined space, it can only go for so long before it expands. And if smoke gets hot enough that it can blow up, and it's called a smoke explosion, just as the name implies. And it's similar to a backdraft, if you've seen the movie, to where oxygen is starved. In that case, oxygen is starved. You open a door, oxygen is released, and you get the big boom because the fire gets the fuel that it needs from the oxygen. Well, this is just where there's a large amount of smoke in a confined area that gets continuously hotter and hotter and hotter until it reaches its ignition temperature. Once it reaches its ignition temperature, then there's an explosion. What we hypothesize happened is between the walls, between the brick on the exterior and the interior wall, how the damage was that the smoke was going up in that cavity, and within that cavity it stored so much underneath the window seal until it reached the temperature, and once the smoke started to actually burn and we had flames coming up from out of the ground, it ignited that, and that's what created the boom. And so it's plausible that is what happened. When we had the gas company out, the gas company was not involved, or the gas line was not involved in any of the fire. We initially thought that it was. Now it was only about 6 to 8 inches away from where the fire was actually burning underground, so it was very, very, very close, too close for comfort. But it was not involved. So that was something we initially reported and then did come back on because it was untrue. But from the information that we had in the initial investigation and the witness reports, everything fit together. But we were still just missing some puzzle pieces, and now we were able to kind of finish that out. So yeah, all the fire originated in a direct bury underlying power lines that for some reason potentially could have got liquid water, moisture from the ground in a hole, and started to spark and arc, melted the plastic sheeting on the outside through heat generation, and then as it's created a burn and melt and heat, it arced out by touching 2 live power lines together. And then the amount of lines, there was about 32 runs, so about 32 power lines under there, individual lines. And so as some of those started to be exposed, the heat, the fire, all that, it just gradually grew to where there was a large amount of smoke and eventually fire coming up out of the ground.
So any way to know how long that had been building up?
No.
Okay.
Not at my level. You may be able to get an electric engineer, forensic engineer, somebody that does that to potentially tell you, or this is the first time that I've actually, in my 25 years of emergency service experience, actually had a fire of direct bury wire underground. So this was a new one on me, and which is why we took things very slow. We used a water vacuum, a hydrovac, to actually expose the area due to we didn't know what was live, what was not live. We were sure that Vectren had killed and cut all the power for us. Gas company had dug a hole and shut the gas off, so we knew that the utilities were controlled, but we didn't know what was underground. Obviously, not being able to see it, we weren't going to call in locates and put other people at safety's risk. So we isolated the area and then used a water vacuum, hydrovac, and basically excavated the entire area to really see what we were working with, which was part of the long-term problem. But whether it was a fire in the building, on the outside of the building lost power, which is what drove the evacuation. And the main people event was not the fire. The main people event was actually what we consider just a mass evacuation. And because they had no power, so they couldn't stay, but there was no immediate danger. The fire was isolated out, so we were able to take our time and get people moved, get animals moved. So, in talking with EMA and some of our other partners, this really was a functional, full-scale drill. Without, obviously there was pressures, there was trying to get people to evacuate that wouldn't evacuate, and we had all of those things, but at the end of the day, nobody got hurt, nobody was tragically killed. There was inconvenience, absolutely, and there was going to be that no matter what. We really used this as a great learning experience and kind of just a testing, so to speak, of our emergency response system.
So the evacuation that took place, I believe the fire was on a Thursday, and residents started to go back by Saturday, so it was kind of relatively quick in the scheme of things with that kind of evacuation.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're working with companies that are not based out of Greensburg, and you were working with, parent companies that have multiple levels of supervisors and authorities and this, that, and the other, getting a 4-day turnaround like that is quick. Now, it's different if it's a business that can open and close than it is a residential living facility. The urgency is there, but yes, in looking back, that is a very short timeline for people to be able to come back. And that a lot of that depended on the electrician and getting those things, because that the cause and the reason why we don't have power is a very special thing. So you've got to find an electrician that can get the right equipment, the right supplies, to make that repair. So it was, yes, it was very helpful to have all of that, and be able to let people in by the weekend.
Well, and I appreciated all the updates you gave us. That we could
and we appreciated you, obviously, as we found out that a lot of those people that don't have Facebook, don't have phones, or if they have phones, they don't, they only use them for emergency situations, and being able to rely on local media and a radio station that can be tuned into from pretty much anywhere, anyhow. To get those updates out, we made that decision very quickly that we needed some kind of central repository, I guess, for getting those information out. So, I appreciate you guys and coming out and helping us with that. Is it really became for a lot of the residents and residents' families, the only source of information that they were getting.
So, also, since you were here last time, the Severe Weather Preparedness Week.
Yes.
How did it go as far as any testing from the fire department standpoint?
So we had one outdoor weather siren that did not activate at Friedland and Montgomery. Within 24 hours, we had that repaired. It just required some new batteries. So that went. The testing itself went well. Everything else worked as planned. We're still in the process of linking the city and the county sirens together within the system. The automated system, all the county sirens are on the automated system currently. City sirens still have to be set off manually. So there could be a little bit of time delay between the two. We've just briefed all of our individuals and working with Honda now for their severe weather plans, as we've had one round of severe weather that there was radar indicated tornadic activity in Greensburg on the north side of town there near Honda. So forecast maybe for a little bit of something this Sunday. Like a lion, the severe weather season is roaring in quite viciously. So we've had a pretty wild winter, and it seems like we're setting up for a pretty wild severe weather season. I will say that We got lucky with the severe weather that we did have come through that, there was two, I think, radar indicated tornadic activities, one near Clarksburg, one near North Greensburg, and really didn't turn out to be much of anything. The wind that we did have was normal, I would say, versus some of the straight line winds that we could have seen. Bartholomew County, at the Bartholomew, almost Decatur County line, took a little bit of hit, took some damage there. Down south in southern Indiana, where I'm originally from, just north of where I grew up, was hit with a tornado. So the totality of it all, we got very, very lucky for what we had. But it was very eerie. Step outside at 9 o'clock and it's warm. There's no wind, lightning in the sky, but nothing. And those are sometimes ominous signs that this could be very, very bad. And we're kind of setting up for a little bit of that this weekend. It's going to get back into the 70s, which is awesome. Not going to complain about that after our winters. However, the hotter the atmosphere gets, the hotter it gets, and then when storms come in, it does feed that energy. So there is that reaction. So we want to make sure that people are staying weather aware and beginning to become weather aware if they've kind of just pushed that off to the back burner. It's time to get weather aware again, that we are in coming into an in severe weather season as spring approaches, and spring is, I guess, here now. But that, you need to make sure that you do have your storm plans. You do have a place to go if you're not in a place that has a storm shelter. If you, are in a manufactured or mobile or single wide home or double wide home, that you have some type of evacuation plan for tornadic activity, or even straight line winds. Large wind events can be just as dangerous or just as deadly as what tornadoes can. And a lot of times they're often, by us who are non-weather trained people, mistaken as the same. So we want to make sure that people are safe. One thing that we have seen a great response to in the community is when public safety warns about the weather, whether it's winter, whether it's severe, whether it's whatever, that they do take heed. And we appreciate that greatly, because not only does that help us, it helps them. And so it's a wonderful thing that we do. We try not to cry wolf, and obviously it's the weather and things can always happen. I've always been told about the Greensburg split and the limestone in the ground and this, that, and the other, and how that affects the weather here. But as somebody who's been here for 5 years, we've had our share of pretty severe storms. And as somebody coming just straight out of Kansas, you definitely get very weather aware out there. As I think in the 4 years I was there was at least 2 to 3 tornadoes that we had in our area, in our region. And so that stuff is very real. And, potentially with the winter we had and the severeness of that, and already coming in with severe weather, it definitely is one of those things you want to pay attention to.
Well, I live in an area where I am able to hear the sirens in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's just...
Right, that's luck. We don't want to say that is the standard, and we try to phrase that as outdoor warning sirens, I was driving through Indy, coming back to Greensburg, and Marcus Bailey, one of their meteorologists, was on, and the radio people were talking to him about storm sirens, and I was glad to hear the same message, that they are meant for outdoor sporting events. They are meant for outdoor events that you're lucky if you can hear them inside, but that should not be and is not meant to be a primary warning device. As we've talked before, the saturation of the sound decibels, as well as the amount of sirens that we have in Greensburg, do allow for people to hear them inside at times, but it should not be depended on. Sandusky now has a siren, but at times you could hear in Clarksburg the Greensburg siren if there was a wind coming from, blowing north, because obviously it carried the sound. And so, while they are a good thing, while we want to know if they are not functioning because it is a warning system, some people in cars your cell phones go off, code red. If you've not signed up for code red, you can go to the county's emergency management website, sign up for code red to get weather information. You guys are getting weather information that's automatically coming out. It's just one of those things where we want to always get that message out that, it is imperative that, yes, report them if they're down, but please do not, think those are meant to wake you up, especially in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. Unless it's on top of you, it's probably not going to wake you up. However, your cell phone, the NOAA weather radios, the standalone NOAA weather radios that make an obnoxiously squelching sound, that will wake you up. We're woken up by dispatch that'll tone us out and tone everybody out to advise of severe weather. Obviously, as we still continue to set off the sirens, we'll have somebody up and awake and manning our radio room that's able to set those sirens off when those alerts come in. But yes, we talk about it every year pretty much to ad nauseum, but it's just one of those things of I don't want anybody to have a false sense of security.
So what are the conditions now of which the sirens are set off? Are they set off, say, for example, there's a severe thunderstorm watch in effect and a tornado warning comes down?
If there's any type of tornado warning, they will go off. If there's a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning, then obviously we'll set them off as well. We will put on our Facebook and we will put on city social media what those are. We just changed them last year, so I'm still getting used to that as well. As we did change that, that was a post that we did last year, and in a public service announcement, we will get into to do that again, as well as we can make sure that we will repost those things on our social media. Check out City of Greensburg and City of Greensburg Fire Department. As well, we'll see if we can't get somebody in to record like a PSA that we can just put on play here at the station.
That'd be good. And as we get ready to wrap up here, it's already it's almost 9 o'clock.
Oh man!
The public safety cookouts.
They're starting up.
First one.
They are starting up. First one is coming up.
It's in May?
I believe so. Yes. We're doing. Actually, our first community thing is actually going to be in April. And it's going to be a mock prom crash.
Oh, that's right.
As we're doing those crashes, and I believe that's going to be. Let's see here.
Yep, that's right.
It is coming up, and I can't. I thought I had it on my calendar, and I don't see it. So
it's out at the high school.
It's out at the high school during the week at 10 a.m. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those off schedule. The cooking events will actually, yes, you're correct, Sandy, begin in May. The schedule is out on our Facebook, on the City of Greensburg Facebook, on the City of Greensburg Police Department Facebook as well. Menus are being finalized, so I don't have that information in front of me, but I know we're looking at doing some breakfast, some cheeseburgers and some hamburgers with, I believe you guys call it the garden, as an option. I learned that last time when we did that, so we'll do that later on when springtime, early into summer when it's watermelon season, because we're definitely gonna be able to serve up some watermelon like we want to. Actually, the prom mock crash is going to be on the 24th, the morning of the radio show. So we'll start a little after 10 a.m. with that, and we're going to bring out the students about 10:15 and give them a quick briefing. And from about 10:30 to 11:10, we're going to be doing our crash. So it'll involve an automobile crash of intoxicated underage individual. There will be a fatality. So we will have the coroner's office, an air ambulance, local EMS, fire department will be extricating, so it'll be like extrication demo. Police department will be doing field sobriety testing, showing everybody kind of how that goes through, and sending that message as we get into prom season, as we get into, anytime we can spread that message about, students drunk driving, students against drunk driving, mothers against drunk driving. We still see a lot of alcohol related crashes, and even more, we could change that to distracted driving. You don't necessarily have to be drunk to create havoc on the roadway and, potentially, take somebody's life. Staring at your cell phone, being sleepy, any type of distraction, lots of friends in the car, horse playing and not paying attention to the road. Any of those things can cause a drastic change in event for one or many people.
All right, Greensburg Fire Chief Nathan Stoermer, it is 10 o'clock. Thanks for coming in. We'll catch you again in April.
All right, get ready for your prom.